We'll call to order this meeting for Monday, November 25th. This is a regular meeting of the school board held jointly with the Air Force Base Public School District 140. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Ask you to stand as you're able. The flags are up in this corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Uh, 1A, the reading of the school board meeting norms. Mr. Clevin.
Number 1, be prepared. Number 2, be on time. Number 3, value and respect each other. Number 4, exercise thoughtful deliberation and conversation. 5, be professional at the board table and when visiting with the general public. 6, speak up when the norms are not being followed. And 7, advocate on behalf of students and keep the community in mind.
Thank you. Item 2 for the Grand Forks School Board is the approval of the agenda. I would seek a motion to approve the agenda in your packet. It's been moved by Mr. Larson. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Hodak. We'll take a roll call vote.
Manley?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
And Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
A motion carries.
We'll do the approval of the agenda for the Grand Forks Air Force Base School Board. Can I get a motion for that?
I move to approve.
Stan makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Michelle. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Item 3, celebrating success. I'll turn this over to Dr. Brenner.
Thank you, Board Chair Berger. At tonight's meeting, we have a couple of special guests, and we will start with our classified employee of the quarter, and that is Jackie Seveny, head custodian at Lewis and Clark Elementary School. And she's going to be introduced by Principal Lauren Hoheisel, who is also with us tonight with a shorter haircut. Some of us know there's a backstory to that. Mr. Hoheisel, feel free to talk about that. So, Mr. Hoheisel, the microphone is all yours, and congratulations, Jackie, and thank you for being here this evening, and your family for supporting you as well.
A little bit shorter. Some of the board leaders and district leaders were able to be at the pep rally or our assembly a couple weeks ago where we got to honor Jackie, but it was also we got to celebrate our students raising a lot of money, and then I had to shave my head. So it was a great time for everyone. So good evening, board leaders, district leaders. At Lewis and Clark Elementary School, we are extremely lucky to be able to celebrate Miss Jackie, our extraordinary school custodian. She truly supports every student and staff member inside the Lion's Den. Miss Jackie's dedication and care go beyond just keeping our school clean. She ensures each and every student and staff member has a safe place to learn and work. She makes our school community feel safe, secure, comfortable, and is well cared for. In the spring of 2024, Lewis and Clark was incredibly grateful to receive an upgrade to our HVAC system, but this also meant that the work had to start. Miss Jackie and her team were pivotal in ensuring the construction teams were able to access the building on schedule, actually at 4 p.m. on the very last clerical day for teachers. This task required rooms to be packed up, disassembled, and wrapped up in plastic. The entire basement needed to be relocated to a storage unit, and Miss Jackie spent endless hours, countless trips back and forth, and used great care with all of the teachers' materials, furnitures, and other items. Then came August 2024. With the construction crews finishing up in the room, Miss Jackie was able to reclaim their space as soon as they left the room, sometimes almost tackling some of them on their way out of the room. Teachers were expecting to come back to a pile of materials in the middle of their classrooms, but instead, Miss Jackie and her team reassembled the classrooms just like the teachers had left them, so they were ready to start on time. Teachers felt prepared with their rooms, and the Lion's Den was once again a safe place to learn and grow because of Miss Jackie and her hard work, well beyond just the normal summer cleaning. Even when she's heading into some of the dirtiest jobs, Miss Jackie always has a smile on her face, bringing humor to everyone around. She genuinely brightens every corner of our school. Like we've said before, we're a small school with big pride, and Miss Jackie is a very, very special lion inside our pride. Her hard work, kindness, selflessness, and true heart of our school community makes her the pulse that keeps Lewis and Clark running each and every day. We are so grateful for you, Miss Jackie, and so proud of you to celebrate this very well-deserved recognition of Grand Forks Public Schools Classified Employee of the Quarter. You need to go to this side there.
Next up, we have our certified employee of the quarter, Emily Dawes, first grade teacher at Kelly Elementary School, and she's going to be introduced by Principal Kelly Tannehill, who will also provide a few remarks on behalf of Emily. Ladies, the microphone is all yours. Thank you.
There we go. Good evening. I just want to take 1 minute as former principal of Lewis and Clark Elementary, just to again say congratulations. And I know Emily Dawes, former Lewis and Clark teacher as well. We want to congratulate Miss Jackie because
She really is that good.
she really is that good. And we had the opportunity to work with Miss Jackie for 6 years together. Yeah, we were together for 6 years with Miss Jackie, and then we jumped ship and headed over to Kelly Elementary together. And so as the principal of both Lewis and Clark and Kelly Elementary Schools, I have had the pleasure of working alongside Mrs. Emily Dawes for close to 10 years now. And over the course of those 10 years, numerous times, and I'm not exaggerating when I say numerous times, Mrs. Dawes' name has come across my desk and mentioned to me by colleagues from not only Lewis and Clark and Kelly School, but from committees around the district, as well as parents, to stop and say, hey, just so you know, I nominated Emily Dawes for Employee of the Quarter. So I know she has numerous nominations leading up to this quarter when she was finally recognized for this prestigious award. So it is my honor to introduce her tonight as the 2024 Certified Employee of Quarter 1, and I do have a few quotes to share with you from the nomination forms that came in. The first one was from a colleague, and it says, Mrs. Dawes is so passionate about her job, and it's evident she truly loves it. Honestly, I have never seen her not smiling. And that's the truth. This smile lights up our school for sure. And this is from a parent. From the very start of back to school night, Mrs. Dawes welcomed each student by getting down to their level and showing excitement that they were in her class. She made each student feel important by showing interest in them, making eye contact, and sharing her warm, sincere smile. Since then, Mrs. Dawes has continued to demonstrate what each parent hopes, that their child feels seen, heard, and loved. Mrs. Dawes is such a special teacher, and I'm so glad my daughter is in her class. She goes the extra step to get her students excited about learning. Kelly School is lucky to have Mrs. Dawes on our staff. We enjoyed celebrating the announcement of this recognition award with her at our November assembly, and we are proud to introduce her tonight to the Grand Forks Public Schools boards. Thank you.
If I could just take a moment, I was leaving the UND Education Building last Thursday evening. It was about 7:25 p.m., and I was going to my vehicle, and there were a couple of ladies getting out of their vehicle, just giddy to go to work some more after hours. And Emily Dawes was one of those teachers going to the student-teacher teacher talk to share her passion about this profession. Thank you, Emily.
Next on the agenda is number 3A. It'll be the approval of minutes for Grand Forks Air Force Base from November 6, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Stanley makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Brandon seconds. All in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, item 4 on the agenda is the public comment period. I don't have any blue comment forms turned in. Is there anyone at the meeting who wishes to speak during the public comment period tonight? Okay, moving on to item 5A.
5A, we're going to have, we have tonight with us Colonel Champion from the Mission Support Group. He's going to speak to us about the state of the base at Grand Forks Air Force Base. Colonel Champion?
Hey, good evening, everybody, and thank you. I was just telling the gentleman over here, we've been here for about 4 months. I took command in the middle of July 16th, coming out of Washington, D.C., so this has been you guys have been a welcome change of pace for me. Warm reception, even though it's cold outside, it's been a warm reception. My wife teaches down at South Middle School, and my daughter attends Twining, 8th grader there, so it's been great. We're loving it here. I'm looking forward to the winter. To seeing what it's all about, and as we go through this. So thanks again for the opportunity. I wanted to talk a little bit about the mission for the 319th Reconnaissance Wing. Right, our mission is to provide combat-ready airmen and air power to the fight. Our most fundamental duty is to be ready to fight and win anytime and anywhere. We do this by ensuring readiness, and our wing enables and conducts unblinking global operations, and we will continue to train, prepare for operations in an increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex, and contested environments. With that, I'll talk about a couple of the missions we have going on at Grand Forks, what's coming, and then wrap up with a few more words for you all. As you guys know, Grand Forks, we do receive a lot of North Dakota CODEL visits. We get a lot of attention, which is good for us in involvement with the communities. One of the programs that we have is our Disaster Resiliency Program. It's a program valued at $246 million, and it's underway but complicated by our future mission requirements and future sets. This plan is designed to provide mission flexibility for us at Grand Forks to support ongoing military training and operational missions during time of duress. For example, severe weather, natural disasters, or other contingencies. Also wanted to highlight that our OSS and Air Traffic Control is the second busiest in Air Combat Command as we support the UND student pilot training program here. As you guys are maybe well aware, we'll be receiving the B-1s coming in from Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota as a temporary relocation. They will begin arriving next month, and then with the continuum of them arriving in the middle January timeframe. With that, we expect 800 to 1,000 airmen joining us here at Grand Forks Air Force Base and in the community here in Grand Forks. So we're looking forward to the noise, and we've heard a lot of positive feedback from the folks in town that bringing the B-1 coming back is good for a lot of people. It'll be temporary, but we're looking forward to the mission that they come here with this. Additionally, I'll give you guys a highlight. We received the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, a DCIP. It's an $11.6 million award for a new fire station that's going to be built on Grand Forks Air Force Base, right? This is the grant to undertake the project construction for a new fire station to improve the installation's resiliency and our response time there for Grand Forks Air Force Base. Along that, where that's going to be built at on the Grand Sky side of the base there, Grand Sky is also planning approximately $5 million infrastructure improvements over the next couple of years. So we're looking forward to those improvements and the new fire station that comes with that. With that, right, one of the exciting things here is the new Twining School, right? It's looking to be built there on Grand Forks Air Force Base. Earlier this month, we partnered with some of the Grand Forks School District and some volunteers, over 60 volunteers, airmen from Grand Forks, and performed a clean out of the old Eielson Elementary School on November 4th and 5th, right? Great work by the community, great work by our airmen in participating in that. You know, and it was saved in upwards of $70,000 and doing a volunteer effort for that. So it was great to see the airmen get together with the community and be able to knock that out as we took that on. You know, when I got here in July, right, and running into the team, and as we start running through this design, right, the new design celebrates and emphasizes the history and the values of our military. our military personnel and provides an enhanced quality of life for our military family members, right? Welcoming new families and displays a unique story and history of the Grand Forks Air Force Base as we look forward to this new school. We're excited about the STEM focus and STEM learning opportunities that this school and this new building will bring. Also, last week or 2 weeks ago, we had the Federal Evaluation Team come and visit Grand Forks and Grand Forks Air Force Base with members from the Office of Secretary of Defense and then the Office of the Local Defense Community Cooperation. So it was great to meet with them. I know it was a busy day for all of us bouncing around, but getting to see the teams as they were walking around and then as they toured some of your schools and then wrapping up the evening with them. With that, the new school, right, we have a projected move-in for students in January of 2028 as we work through this new project. With that, I want to wrap up the men and women, the airmen from the 319th Reconnaissance Women will continuously seek opportunities to improve community relationships with you all and our partnerships. We'll pursue mission enabling and force multiplying options at a scale through cooperative agreements and with the institutions of higher learning, businesses, and partnered with government agencies. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you for the warm welcome you've shown us all as we've arrived here and been part of this community. I look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to 5B. This is the annual report for 2023-2024. I believe this is both Catherine Galach and Matt Bakke. Matt Bakke.
Yeah. Thank you, Board President, members of the board. It's my opportunity to present to you the 2023-24 annual report, and I do have a couple guests that will be joining me throughout the presentation today that I'll introduce as we get to that point. And so some of the data we've really covered extensively, especially the academic data, as we've received multiple updates on that throughout the last couple of meetings. And so I'll kind of go through that fairly quickly, but some of the other data will go more in extensive conversation relative to that data. And again, individuals will also join me here later on as we go through this data. So the first part I'm going to cover is our student enrollment information. Just a reminder that this is a data that really looks at one given time and one set of data that really tries to articulate the entire school year, but really it just is a spot data. It's just, and this data specifically is taken from the end of September of each given year. And so you'll see the trends as far as how our enrollment compared last year to previous years. And you also are aware that we anticipate that, or we see that enrollment uptick that's happening right now. And so when we look at this data next year, which we'll look at this current year, you'll see an uptick in that data relative to where it is currently for the 23-24 school year. And again, this is, again, I just want to articulate that it's important to note that this is a set given at that one point in time. It does not look at the entire school year. Here's also a look at our National School Lunch Program and a percentage of population that qualify for free and reduced lunch. Again, this is important for our federal funds, and you'll see how it looks similar to years in the previous years. One thing I will note is that 2021, 22, 20, 21, and 19, 20 are all the exact same percentage relative to what was taking place at the time, in which those years we could basically access those numbers based on COVID and based on our ESSER dollars. And so basically through the Department of Public Instruction allowed districts to use the 2019-2020 school years for those roles, and the fact that we were receiving free lunches for our students, and so we did see a decrease of amount of individuals that were willing to fill out the forms as a result of receiving those free lunches. And so you'll see that those all stay the same, and that's why you see that. And now you do see actually a drop in our free and reduced lunch numbers from that time frame. Whether that gradually happened in those 3 years or whether it's just been a decrease over the last couple of years, I'm uncertain on whether I could tell you that, but I just want you to note that we do have a decrease over the last 2 years. We're hoping that trend will go upward this year, and we'll see a different projection from there. The next thing I would highlight is our special education, and I will actually call up Dr. Lissa Dietrich, who is our special education director, and she'll talk a little bit about this data and just some of the things, challenges, but also opportunities we have this school year, as well as what we saw last school year. So, Dr. Dietrich.
Good evening, members of the school board. So this data also is one shot in time, and it happens to be almost a year old. So every December 1st, our federal government says we're going to get a count of our December 1 number. This is actually a pretty big lift to do because we have to make sure that all of the exit forms are completed and then all of the evaluations are completed. And every single IEP that's due before December 1st is done and finalized. So last year, our number was 1473. Sunday, we will see. I'm guessing that that number will go up. You can see from this chart, the numbers have gone up since the 14-15 school year, but I would guess even before that, it's just gone steadily up. Some of the trends that we are seeing, we added an autism classroom in our elementary sections. So we now have 6 autism classrooms at the elementary level, and they are full. Their numbers are sitting about 8 per classroom, which is a pretty heavy class size. And when we look down to our ECSE, our preschool number, that is also, it's heavy with students who have autism and just those setting C classroom needs. So that is just a challenge that we continue to see. The ECSE population, that's the early childhood special education, our 3 to 5-year-old learners. That number also continues to go up. Right now, our ECSE team, since July 1st, has seen about 45 students that they've evaluated. And not all of them have qualified, but it's still a pretty large number thinking of July 1st. And then, of course, our students with behavioral support needs continue to be a challenge. We do have our behavior facilitators and our school psychologists. They've really helped take the lead on supporting those students. And then our UCARU and our therapeutic options, our restraint and seclusion programs. And that just helps us understand what the student needs and then how to effectively deal with those situations. With our special education staff, we have about 180 staff. That includes teachers, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech-language pathologists. We have a teacher for the visually impaired, a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. And we also have school psychologists, and then some of our members are on an evaluation team. So we have a really wide range of team members. As far as the leadership team goes, I am the director. We have also an assistant director. We have a process facilitator who helps really make sure that some of the procedural things are in place. 4 full-time special education coordinators, and then 2 coordinators that are half-time coordinators and half-time teachers. And they've really helped out at Twining and Thompson, just provide more consistent building presence. We love our resident teacher program. UND has that. When I came into this position, we had 3 people that were in the resident teacher program, and that was 4 years ago. Right now, we have 9 candidates, so we're excited to be growing people. There's also a resident, it's a parent-to-teacher program where people who have a certain number of credits are able to come into a university and have their education completely paid for. That's a grant through the state. We have 5 candidates in that right now, and there's 2 potential candidates for that as well. So we're always looking to see people who are interested in that and get them enrolled in that program. As far as our needs, our school psychologist openings are at the top of the need. We do have some online people filling the gap, but we are supporting school psychology candidates as we can. And recruiting them as well. And then, of course, our speech-language pathologists and occupational therapist teams are also in that need. And then finally, the finance piece of it. So special education is financed a little bit through the federal government, mostly through state and federal dollars, but we are able to access Medicaid funds to help support what we do. Our state is in the middle of a Medicaid expansion. That's a challenge because it's just following how our state is maneuvering through that expansion. But we have been able to now bill for all evaluations, for speech pathology, OT, PT, and our school psychologists. And then our school psychologists are also able to start billing for some of the support they provide. And then finally, there's Medicaid administrative claiming that we are just getting enrolled in. And so we are excited to be a part of that expansion to access that financial piece. Are there any questions about special education?
Questions for Dr. Dietrich? Dr. Lund first.
Where do we sit compared to our like-minded districts in the state as far as percent of IEPs and stuff? Where are we sitting?
So we are currently at about 20% or 19.5%. That aligns pretty closely with Fargo, West Fargo, Minot, and Bismarck. And we see quite a few of the same trends. I do collaborate with those directors as well, just because we do see some of the trends that our smaller multi-district units don't see as often.
Other questions? Mr. Clevin?
You mentioned like kind of subcategories, ESC, and for example, are those students all encompassed in these IEP numbers, or is that a larger pool of students as well?
Great question, yes. So all of our special education students are encompassed in that number that you see. And we serve students from age 3 all the way up to 21. And so we have students who qualify for the adult transition program that are 18 to 21 years old, really working on those job skills, workforce readiness, and then independent living skills.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dietrich. The next item we're going to talk about is our multilingual learners, and we actually have our coordinator, Ivona Todorovich, who is actually entering her first full year of our coordinator. Last year she was doing dual roles as we were waiting for her replacement to start within the classroom, and so she was kind of playing both roles while also mentoring in a new teacher. And so I want to compliment her on all the work that she did last year and all the work that she's continuing to do this year, not only in mentoring our new teachers in our ML program, but also providing consistency across the board for our ML learners and ML curriculum and ML teaching and learning. And so you also maybe recognize her from previously being named the North Dakota Teacher of the Year. And she continues to do that work across the state, across the nation, presenting and being a part of many committees and presenting across the nation. And so I want to compliment her on that as well. But you'll also hear from her just the vast expansion we've seen in our ML population across our district, and that has presented challenges, but also has presented opportunities as well too. And so I want to hand that off to Ivona Todorovich to talk a little bit about our ML learners and ML program.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, school board members. Tonight, I'm just gonna take you back a year from now, a little bit, actually longer than a year, when I got my new position as the ML coordinator for the district. It was in August of 23, and I hopped on our platform. It's called Elevation, which keeps all of our, numbers, levels, and everything else in place. And we were at 242 ML students. Previously that summer, we actually had a big move of our Nepali students and Nepali families from our community to Pennsylvania and Ohio, because they wanted just to be part of the bigger communities where they have access to taking kids to learn Nepali dance, Nepali language, and etc. So our numbers decreased, and also with our graduating seniors that year. Well, over that summer of 23, the Global Friends Coalition actually started increasing arrivals in Grand Forks, and we gained a lot of kids through that summer, and we were able to enroll them in summer school and actually have our tutor them over the summer. So we started with 242. And then from August of 23 to September 28, 23, that's this data too that you're looking at, we gained 26 students, about a month. And then from that time and on, it just went up, up, and up. So when we look back, as an ML teacher, this would be my 20th year. I started in 2004-05. We had constantly the 2 or 3 refugee groups in our town. It started with Bosnians. I'm a former refugee myself. And then it was Burundi, Nepali, Somali, and we had a really big population of those 2 countries. And then a little bit of Iraqi refugees, Liberia, West Africa, and some immigrants from China and Vietnam. Well, everything kind of changed within a year. I don't think that we ever had almost 50 languages in our district. With Spanish being now a top language, we have about 176 speakers of Spanish. And then South America, Central America, first through Global Friends Coalition. Also, we learned through our stakeholder meeting in September that actually Haitian, Colombian, and Venezuelan parole is open, same as Ukrainian. Had that for 3 years, and that we just saw that increase. They are refugees. They're just not coming through Global Friends Coalition pipeline. Then we had some companies in our town that needed help with workforce, especially after COVID. And then through Wendell Empower, we gained a lot of Ukrainian families and Turkish families. Turkish families just started this summer to coming. And why Ukrainian families, when you say that the factory was in Poland, but a lot of Ukrainians actually work in Polish factories because Poland people are having Euro passport and they go to different countries to work because they're paid more. So it's everywhere that work migration, not just in the United States. So anyway, now that's a little story what happened, and between that September 23 and now, we opened brand new site at Lake Agassiz Elementary School in July. Matt and I just saying, this is what's happening when Ship Elementary School does not have any more physical capacity. They have more ML kindergartens than actually native speakers. So, and then from there, we opened 2 more new sites, Valley Middle School and also Viking Elementary School. So we gained more sites. We're kind of moving. We had that ML forum listening session with ML parents. We had a really good outcome, and a lot of them came and we listened to them, and they were kind of divided in their thinking, but a lot of the ones that are first and second generation that I had actually taught at Red River, they are more for neighborhood schools. The new ones, they're happy with anything because they're so happy they are here and they have everything what they need and their kids have actually education. So now going fast forward, today, November 25th, 484 MLs. So we are the 4th largest district in North Dakota with the numbers. Every single district has experienced same thing what we have. So because I started this big districts ML coordinators meetings because we just needed to be connected and then make some movements with the DPI. Thankfully, I'm a teacher's cabinet and closely working with Superintendent Basler, and we will be looking at some exit criteria because it just seems that our elementary kids are doing way better on their assessments. State assessments and actually exiting with 5.0 with their language assessment, with assessment. Anyway, and then, so we have 166 level 1s, so a lot of new to the country across the board from K through 12. 67 level 2s, and then 109 and 108 level 3s and 4s. Unfortunately, this what I was actually campaigning last week in Bismarck, and then since I'm at the advisory board, we are not happy that, same as you, Brandon, that actually they are collecting our numbers on September 15th, not May 15th, because all of the payments are backwards. So this number will affect next year, hopefully, but it will be nice to change some of the things so that we are it's fairly distribution of funds, especially the state funds. Anyway, we have our challenges, definitely, a lot of communication meetings. Right now, we're sitting at 16 ML teachers across the district. We still can fit in room 313 at Red River for our ML department meetings, but pretty soon we might be looking for another option. Anyway, and I just think that, and I know I'm saying this also from as being a former refugee myself, but these families are just amazing. And that's like one of my best part of my job. As a teacher at Red River, I've worked a lot with families at home visits, but as a coordinator, I get to see everyone and meet everyone, and they're just are so appreciative and grateful what we have for them. And we cannot forget that actually the economic development of the city is right there because we need workers. We are building a lot of buildings. We just built new hospital and all kinds of things so that these people are really willing to work. And when you come as a refugee, you don't work only one job, you work 2 jobs, same as I did. So thank you everyone for your time, and I'm asking you if you have any questions.
Questions for Mrs. Todorovic? Dr. Lund?
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly, because I think it's so important for the public to know. Did you say almost 50 languages, different
50
languages are spoken among the students?
Yep.
It's just a powerful number
Yes,
to
50
hear
languages.
in North Dakota.
Thank you.
Others? Mr. Palmasino?
Are we getting advance notice from any of these companies that are bringing in workers, or is it just kind of like Monday morning, they show up at your door?
So I would say for a majority of the time, we are receiving some advance notice. I know Ivona was aware of some of it, but again, there are some that we're showing up and we're getting them connected with the schools in which we can and doing the best we can to get them educated as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But Ivona, who meets and works with the families individually on a daily basis, I would hand it off to her to speak.
I would
more to
say
that.
the best as they can, because like when they're notified when the paperwork goes, and then they have to do immigration, HB1 is usually the one that, work visa that we have so many educators, actually international teachers that are here through that one. So as soon as they hear it here, and actually Ellen Wind Power is working with relocation agents, and then they contact me, and then we go from there. So usually yes, but sometimes it's really hard because they have like a week to get everything ready and come here. Global Friends Coalition is very different. They might know like 2 weeks to a month ahead, and they're amazing to work with because case managers are really there, and they bring the families. And like, for example, tomorrow we have a meeting at an elementary school, and case manager is accompanying the family. We have to it's not just language learning. These kids had gone through, had gone through a lot. So there's a lot of things that we have to work on, adjustments and trauma too. So.
Other questions? Mrs. Flynn?
I just want to say I had the privilege of helping with some of the relocations, and early on last year we would get like week notice, and a lot of these families, they literally step off the plane and they have to go get their social security card, and they don't have a driver's license, they don't have a car. American dollars and negotiations are completely different. One of them had peanut butter for the first time, and they have no furniture. So literally stepping foot into like getting all of that done, stepping into work, and just being so grateful. But I had a conversation with Matt and Ivona like very early on because one of them was anticipating 5 students to come. And so we chatted, and then subsequently after that, when I would ask if they had children, they said, yep. And we were told to contact Ivona. So they were already like through their circles of just like being connected with each other. So the work that you all are doing and staying connected and trying to get ahead of that is amazing. I mean, these families coming from Ukraine, for example, who are in a country where their kids were out of school for maybe 8 months. I mean, just think about that multiplied. And so I can't imagine how our district is serving 200 more unexpected students who maybe aren't fluent in English and have nothing. And so I'm really proud of those efforts. And I just hope as a district we can continue to educate the state on the importance of receiving more funding, because the funding that we get is very minimal compared to the needs that we have. So
I would agree with you. In the past, I testified, and then it's going to be probably again. So, yeah, but yeah, thank you.
Any others? Yep, Mr. Clevin.
How do we track how these students acclimate academically? Like, is this a separate set of data that we keep?
Well, I don't know if I would call it data, but ML teachers are working closely with these kids. And also, I have to say, classroom teachers, this is like, I think there's a reason I've been here for 29 years. I never moved anywhere, even the winter is really harsh, because of the community and how we respond to new members and, community members. So like, I can tell you as a teacher at Red River for almost full 19 years, I had 2 kids not graduating. So, so we do, and we are building better systems in a state that will recognize if kids actually have something more than language, because sometimes happens. We also have some kids who are called SLIFEs, so it's interrupted education, like just Amber just mentioned about not going to school for so many, because of the many reasons, like in Ukraine, war is happening. So we try to put them on a fast track, and then especially with our new curriculum that was adopted with phonics, like, science of reading, and then wisdom, I think is going to really, really help with our kids too, because there's so much rich language part of that. So.
It's maybe apocryphal, maybe it's just kind of intuition, but the students, they graduate, so there's obviously success happening.
Absolutely. I wish, if you ever have a time, go to room 313 in Red River. We have actually a family wall, and all the graduates are on the wall. And we can proudly say we have 3 doctors. One is actually just started his residency in Oshkosh in Wisconsin. And we have numerous, I lost the number of RN nurses, LEPN nurses, welders, cosmetology ladies, and everything in between. And after that, it's just like wonderful stories. And you know what? One thing we have, they never leave us. They always, yesterday I had a phone call letting me know what's going on in her life. These kids are just always in contact with us. We are like their second family, because they all come from collectivist cultures, and people really mean a lot to them.
And so 2 students in how many years haven't graduated? That's
since 2000, I started 2004 or 5 at Red River. So since then, 2 of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Other questions?
I just want to also add to Mr. Board Member Clevin's question relative to, they do have their WITA test or assessment that they go through every year, and we track the data relative to that. Also, when we talk about some of the academic data, and as Chief Academic Officer Barch presented previously, we do see it as a subgroup that we track, and we're aware of how they're performing in comparison to their peers as well, and you'll see that relatively in some of the data later on here in the presentation as well. But as you'll see, and I don't think I need to speak for Ivona, but you can tell the passion she has and the work she does, and that's why we're so very lucky to have her here and working as our ML coordinator. the passion she has, not only from a standpoint of being a teacher, but also having lived that life and being here, and we're lucky to have her. So I want to thank her for the work she's doing.
Not to say that he was in second grade when I started at Lake Agassiz. I'm not.
I will say she was a para at Lake Agassiz when I was a second grader. So I didn't say that though. You pointed that out. So
Good memories. He was a cute kid. Okay.
Thank you.
all right, we'll move on to some academic information. Again, I'm going to kind of quickly go through this because all of this data was pretty much presented to you 2 meetings ago, and so I'm not going to, bewilder it too much, but I will just point out some things that we're seeing in the data relative to probably nothing really new to what you saw from Chief Academic Officer Barch, but again, just some things to point out. So the first data here is our STAR early literacy data from spring 2024. Again, we've broken it down by subgroups so you can see the subgroup data there. Just a reminder on this that this is kindergarten and first grade literacy data. So this is kindergarten and first graders across our district. STAR reading, again, this is now our reading data for grades 2 through, I'll say 12. But it really usually is typically the 11th grade year in which they sometimes, that's where it kind of stops at primarily. But the STAR reading for our classes, again, broken down by subgroups. Now with the math, this is grades 1 through 12. So we don't do any math assessment data with our kindergartners. And well, we do, but it's more the counting and making sure we can, awareness of numbers more so than the actual math aspect. So this is grades 1 through 12, again, broken down by subgroups, and you'll see, again, that data very similar to what you, again, saw two meetings ago. Here's our NDSA ELA, spring 2024. Again, NDSA stands for North Dakota State Assessment Data, and this is in English Language Arts. Again, this is grades 3 through 8 and then 10th grade. So this is our grades 3 through 8 and again our 10th grade. And again, dark green is our advanced proficient, brown proficient, light green is our partially proficient, and gray is novice. Again, NDSA Math, spring 2024, again, 3 through 8, and grade 10. Here's some data on our advanced placement courses and our dual credit, which I'll share dual credit on the next slide, but this gives you a glimpse of how many students are taking our advanced placement courses, and then how many are eligible, percentage eligible for taking the AP courses in comparison across our district. And when comparing this to other neighboring districts or our peer districts, this is fairly common. And we are pretty consistent, if not at the high end of what we do for AP and dual credit and comparative data. So again, here's our dual credit, and this is broken down by school, so you can see Grand Forks Central versus Grand Forks Red River. The last academic data set that I'll show here is our ACT scores. Again, with our ACT scores, last year this was required for our 11th grade students to take. This year it is an opt-out, so they will most likely take it unless they choose to opt out of that. And again, this year also, this does not count towards our accountability data. And so the last couple years it has counted towards our accountability data. This year it will not, and that's a change at the state level. But again, they are able to take that as long as they don't opt out of that ACT test.
Matt,
Yes.
what is accountability data? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so that would be when you look at your Insights dashboard, and when we're looking at our data and we're looking at our NDSA scores, that would be our accountability data for our 3 through 8 and our 10th grade. And then with our 11th graders, typically the ACT data has been what has been counted as our accountability data. When we go to, and we start with the A+, the NDSA A+, then that is going to be the new assessment for that. And so when we talk about our accountability data, we're talking about the data that is on the ND Insight dashboard.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move on then to staffing and business information. And I know Brandon may chime in a little bit here too, and feel free. But here we have some teacher demographic data as it relates to previous years. So we have our certified staff. And when we talk teachers, that's primarily what we're talking is our, classroom teachers, our secondary teachers, our special education teachers. When we talk other licensed staff, we're talking our social workers, our counselors, anybody that is not typically in the classroom on a daily basis. So that would also be our instructional coaches, that would be our reading specialists, any of those staff members when we talk about our certified staff. So we have our teachers and our other licensed staff there, so you can kind of just see the comparative data. And as you'll see, throughout the last couple of years, we've seen an increase of that. I anticipate that a majority is that coming from our ESSER dollars, and we did have some increase in positions, and some of that has sunsetted and been repurposed throughout the years. Then we also have our classified data, and again, we've broken that down by paras, custodians, nutrition services, secretaries, admin assistants, and then other across our district. All right. Moving on then, we'll go through our budget and tax information. Again, I know you're well versed in this. As a business manager, Bombach has presented this and will continue to present it throughout our board meetings. But this is just a look at our revenue from the 2023-24 school year, our appropriations from the 23-24 school year, and then our mill levy in comparative to other districts across our state that we're compared to. Any questions for me?
Questions from board members?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will move on to 5C, Impact Aid Funding Update, and I believe this is Brandon Bombach.
Yes. Thank you, members of both boards. It's fitting that I get to address both of you, given we're going to be discussing Impact Aid in that program. So I prepared a slide deck here, available in the packet, and just kind of walks through at the outset an overview of what Impact Aid is, why it exists at all, and then gets into some of the specifics as to what that program has really looked like for our school districts, both 1 and 140. So the federal impaction is what the terminology here is on this first slide that just kind of defines exactly what's going on here. It's not specific to military installations, but in our case, that is what we're discussing. It could also be Native American lands. But really, it's describing when federal ownership takes place within a school district, it can impact those local property tax dollars that would normally be coming in. So here it kind of articulates a little bit at the bottom. The mix is a little bit different for us here, but state aid certainly makes up a large share of funding for any school district in the state of North Dakota. And for our districts, it's about 62%. And then a large share will come from your local tax base, both the local businesses and industries, as well as homes. We do not have a vehicle tax that's articulated there. That local share makes up 27% of our budget. And so when we have a large military installation that does not pay property taxes, that can really affect just what the mix looks like. And that's kind of what this slide here is describing, is that without those local property taxes, you would have a school district looking to do just as much or more without quite the same dollars available to them. So what has taken place here is in 1950, Congress had passed an act to put in place Impact Aid, which is actually one of the first, the original federal education program. It was from this original idea that concepts like title programs came to be, and certainly have taken on their own life from that. But really, what this has said is that if you have federal ownership within your school district, and it's therefore offsetting your local property tax base, that you'd be eligible to apply for this program. The program is primarily, well, it is based entirely around student count and a characterization of military-connected students. So you're a student of a military member who is uniformed or not uniformed, depending on, you could be a civilian and still attending those school bases, but really any reason that would bring these families from without the area into our area, residing on or off that Air Force base would be connected as military connected. This articulates just a few of the changes to the program over the years, but really last authorization was in 2015. That kind of brings this together. And then the last, well, kind of contextual slide here too is just in the broad budget here, the president's budget upcoming, as you can see that it shows a sliver here of 2.3 is really set aside for education. This is a good visual here provided to us by NAFIS, the Association for Impact Aid. It kind of articulates just what that looks like around the country. You can see that we're colored in blue, which is not the least impacted, but one of the smaller ones here in North Dakota. Certainly in Grand Forks County, that's a big deal. And just kind of gives you a sense of that landscape. So here, there's a couple different components to impact aid. It's calculated off of primarily that basic support, that's the student count. There's a couple other associated programs that do take into account children with disabilities, take into account some construction funds as well. For the basic support, this is the crux of it here. And what NAFIS is wanting us to understand about this graphic here on the left is they've calculated based on student counts, submitted every year through application just like we participate in, what the total need is according to the program, $2.34 billion. But of course, this program is always held to allocation from Congress, and so each and every year there is an effort on behalf of NAFIS and school districts like ours that go up to Capitol Hill and they get the allocation for the funding. And you can see here that as much good work that's done there, there's still unmet need. And so there's a calculation of understanding what you're entitled to as an impacted school district, but then there's a calculation on how much is actually allocated, and that's your lot. You get a certain percentage of that. So each year that can change. We are District 140 is coterminous, as in the same shape and size as Grand Forks Air Force Base, and so that puts us into a category of heavily impacted, which ensures we get our full allotment each and every year, which is certainly a privileged position to be in as compared to others who don't quite get all those resources. At the high level of that program is, you can see some of the changes here, fiscal years from left to right, fiscal year 20, these are federal fiscal years, to the last federal fiscal year 24. You can see for the most part, there has been growth in that basic support, which is the largest component of funding as it relates to impact aid. That has continued to increase, but other buckets, such as that construction bucket, has been really flat for a long, long time, and relatively underfunded. Even though we've seen some increase there, these are per student or in millions of dollars, excuse me, of 19 million in the most recent fiscal year. What that's equated to in our school districts is about 85,000 every other year for school construction, and that doesn't go very far nowadays. And so again, the NAFIS organization works hard to really advocate for that payment increases each and every year. And then they did include a note here that I had included that annual construction and facilities allocation for the entire United States is only 19 million. And we're talking about building a building out there at Twining for, nearing 80 million. And then it also notes that in 1950, it was quite a bit more. So that's a part of the reminders they provide our congressional delegation and others each and every year. This table will be the final of my slides. That is probably the most useful information in our school districts. What you find here is these fiscal years from top down, as in the oldest to most recent. The second column is actually the tuition payment that comes between districts. So as you're all aware, District 140 does transfer a payment to District 1, and District 1 is where all the teachers are hired and all the educational services are provided for. So that's what that amount is. It's been 3 million in the most recent years, and this past year increased to 3.25 million. And then what this goes on to show is, kind of breaks it down per average student payment. But in the third from the right column is a state aid reduction in tuition per student. This has been the case that since the funding formula in the state of North Dakota changed in 2013, every tuition payment between districts gets deducted from the state, 75%. So that's what that's showing, is that even though that payments come over, the state actually deducts 75% of that. So on the far right, you can see that average payment per student decreases 75%. So in 2021, for example, that payment of nearly $7,200 per student is actually valued about $2,500 per student. So at that time in 2021, administration from both school districts went to Bismarck and lobbied for a change, or advocated and educated that this is how it's actually working out, and did get that change. So you'll see the percentage in that third column from the right is decreasing now, because they agreed to change that, no longer deduct those payments, but only over 6 years will they work that backwards. So that's changing the mix here, and it's certainly coming into play even as it relates to how is the new Twining elementary and middle school going to be financed. So this just shows you some real life numbers here on how that has been working out. Each year we do a student count in September. We go through a lot of work to calculate all the students, if any are on IEP status, and we work with housing and Office of Military Personnel on the Air Force Base to validate if the criteria for which we can count those students. Are the parents uniformed, or are they not? Are they civilian? Do they live on base, or do they not? And we work with Jenny Schrader here as a school liaison on base to get all that information correct. It's kind of undertaking. And we'll submit our application January 31st, and payments go from there. It's interesting in this program, my last note there, that timing of, apparently I misspelled federal, timing of federal payments vary greatly. That is the case. In some cases, we can see a payment come in and we say, what's that? We go look it up, and it's from 2 fiscal years ago. And so it has been, I think the program has been good and more current just recently, but it's always a variable in the mix here too. There's a lot to the program. I've been to a conference out in DC in September, which does also engage some of our elected leaders and talk about the things they need to know about this program and why it's so important for districts 140 and 1. I've also been to some technical trainings, and I think there's still much to learn. Happy to answer any questions related to all of this, but this is my overview of Impact Aid.
Questions for Mr. Baumbach? Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is item 5D, curriculum review. This is Catherine Glatch.
Thank you, Board Chair Berger. So as you can see by the memorandum, we were quite busy in our curriculum review cycle this year. In the memorandum, you can see that the review team itself is made up of a comprehensive team. We have CTE Director Eric Ripley, who I believe is with us tonight to talk about his additions to the course handbook. Dr. Arison from Red River, Amy Barch, Chief Academic Officer, Mike Wilbur from GFC, Valerie Mock, a teacher at Red River, Melissa Michelson, counselor at GFC, and Andrea Altopeter, who serves the district as a literacy coordinator. You can also see that we base our decisions on the criteria that are listed there. A lot of those criteria have to do to make sure that there aren't duplicitous courses and that we are offering multiple pathways for our students as we want them to be choice ready. Below you can see there are a number of courses that were recommended for approval, and I'll go through them briefly, and please feel free to either interrupt me or ask questions at the end of this. First one that is recommended for approval is Orchestra 3. So currently what's happening in Orchestra is that at the high school level, when students enroll in Orchestra 1, at the end of that time, they audition if they choose to stay in Orchestra and either make it into Orchestra 2, which serves a very wide array of talents, or they may not make it in and they retake Orchestra 1. They still get credit. It's not like they go backwards in credit. But really what the orchestra department has noticed is that there's a gap in really being able to tailor the orchestral, that's a word, experience to the skills and abilities of the students in the orchestra. And so this is offering then Orchestra 3. Some students will kind of skip over Orchestra 2, but otherwise Orchestra 2 will be designed to serve students who are ready for more advancement but not quite ready for the technicalities of Orchestra 3. So this fills a gap in the program. There should be no additional staffing required for this. Currently, the schedule would allow for it to be absorbed with the current staffing, and also no additions to the budget as far as curricula goes outside of what they already have budgeted for. The next up is practical applications of composition. And so really this is more of a course modification than it is an addition. So approved in prior years was practical applications of English, and that was a year-long course designed to give an alternative pathway for students who didn't necessarily see themselves going to a four-year institution. So it was designed more around business-based skills, around technical college readiness skills as far as reading and writing goes. What the teachers discovered after a couple of years was really they felt like the curricula, there was not enough content there to cover a full year's course, and they felt like the rigor of it was being eroded. And so the recommendation here makes it a semesterized course, which aligns with the way senior comp and senior lit play out in the course catalog, and students would then be taking the opposite, senior lit. And that curricula is really much better able for differentiation to meet students' interests and needs. And so really the recommendation here is to modify what was a previously year-long course to be a semesterized course and have it mirror what's happening with the other language arts courses in the senior year. No questions thus far. Next up is a program that was piloted this current year. It's called Peer-to-Peer Leadership. In short, this is an opportunity for students from the general ed population to be partnered with students identified with special needs and serve as peer mentors for them. So there is a collaborative effort between the groups. They learn together, they learn about one another, they embark on community-based experiences. It's really a wonderful program. We have discussed how this program, we want to ramp it up to be potentially a pipeline for teachers, potential paras and teachers. There's some opportunities within our state course offerings for us to look at that route. But really what we want to do is make this an official course in the course catalog because it was successful this past year. We did ask that there were a couple of enhancements being put in place for this course, one of them making sure that the students themselves don't just learn about privacy, but they actually read our confidentiality policy alongside the teacher, and they and their families sign off on that. And although all of the families of the students with special needs are aware of the peer-to-peer program and give verbal consent that they can participate, we want them to sign off on that. So we put some protections in there according to our privacy policies. Yes.
And just a quick question. So the 4 to up to 1 credit, is that based on how many hours they spend with their peer student or something? Because it says 4 up to 1, so that tells me there could be less than 1 credit.
It could be a half credit. So if they only take it for 1 semester, it would be a half credit course, and then up to 1 credit. So yeah, thank you for asking that clarification. Yep. All right, next up is a proposal for Spanish for native or heritage speakers. Those two terms are kind of interchangeable at the state level. This was recommended to be approved as a pilot program. So in essence, or in a nutshell, this course is designed, you heard Ivona speak earlier about the number of native Spanish-speaking students that have entered our community. And really what we have discovered is that there are different needs for that population, and this would allow students to learn and really expand on their current language capacity. She mentioned the SLIFE, if I say that correctly, and that really means students that have major gaps in their learning in their home language, who maybe don't have refined reading and writing skills, but they speak very fluently. It would allow us to serve that population well. And so we approved it as a pilot for a couple of reasons. Number one is we wonder if there's going to be, how we're going to delineate between the skill levels of students in that class. And so there's going to be a little bit of trial and error there, for lack of a better word, working in tandem with the EL or the ML teachers to make sure that the right students are kind of recruited for placement there. And secondly, the curricula is going to be new, so it's like a $300 curricula. It's not a huge impact on our budget there. They have room within their current allocation for that. But we just don't really know enough about how it's going to exactly work out to feel like it should be a formally approved course. So we're going to approve it on a pilot level. No additional staffing for any of these. I would have mentioned that by now. And Board Member Flynn reached out asking that question earlier, so thank you for that email. And last, I'm going to ask Executive Director Ripley to the microphone because there's a whole lot here in the CTE recommendations for approval. And really, this is because of the opening of the Career Impact Academy, which is super exciting, but he will more fluently speak to these courses than I will.
Thank you. Good evening, Eric Ripley, Executive Director for Career and Technical Education. I'm so excited to talk about what is in your packet related to the Secondary Curriculum Review Committee, which I'm very fortunate to actually be able to serve on as well. All the changes before you tonight, specifically within Career and Technical Education, relate to the opening of the Career Impact Academy in the fall of 2025. And we said all along that the building of the facility is synonymous with the building of the programs, right? They happen together. And what you have before you tonight is a very important and symbolic milestone in terms of the development of the programs, because obviously the primary use of this building during the school day is to help provide expanded courses in CT for our students. And so what the cover memo references is really a little bit of why are there all these different changes, and they've really fallen into 4 buckets. The first one would be is in some cases we are moving our existing CT courses from Red River and Central to the facility. Same courses, same course offerings, same course credits, we're just moving the locations of them. In some cases, we're moving the program, but we're expanding on the opportunities or the courses within that program. And a good example might be health sciences. We're moving the health sciences courses, but at the same time, because of the student interest and demand, we are proposing to add courses like sports medicine and emergency medical services to an existing program. We also have programs that are brand new for this district and for our community, things like culinary arts, okay? Program we don't currently offer. So again, in the curriculum review materials that you see is proposal for offering new courses in the culinary arts space. And then the 4th bucket would be is through the moving of the courses and some updated curricular areas, we are actually recommending deleting some existing courses to try to be a little bit more scope and sequence efficient with what we're going to be offering at the Career Impact Academy. So those are the 4 buckets that you have before you. There's a chart that has lots of colors on it. Some of those are just indicating the location, so location change, whether it's Central, Red River, or CIA. I would indicate also on the cover memo, I talked a little bit about the draft block schedule. Certainly to justify students' travel time from Red River or Central to the Career Impact Academy and back to Red River and Central to take the rest of their coursework, Englishes, math, sciences, etc. There needs to be some justification for the amount of time that they're involved with the logistics, right? And so instead of offering courses for 50 minutes at a time for an entire year, the proposal is, what if we offer the course for 100 minutes at a time for a semester, right? So they're there for a block of their day, and maybe they get that course completed in a semester versus an entire year. And again, I would preface that with draft, just simply because we're still working with the high school principals, Catherine, Valley Bus, et cetera, just to kind of tweak those arrival and departure times. The other item I would also call to your attention would be is that the courses for our 9th grade students who generally do not have block amounts of time in their day to take elective courses. If you talk to look at our 9th grade students, a lot of their 9th grade year is made up of a lot of required courses. And so 2-hour block courses don't typically fill into a 9th grader schedule. So trying to keep 9th grade elective opportunities at a semester level, which is really desired by our counselors. They're opposite of the required FIEDs at the home schools as kind of a feeder into the more advanced programs. The idea would be is take the course as a 9th grader, you like it, then take the 2nd course or the 3rd course of sequence at the Career Impact Academy. So you'll see a lot of the grade levels are more intended for those upperclassmen. So the chart, again, as I referenced with all the colors, I'll just highlight the brand-new courses and then the deletion courses, and certainly happy to stand for any questions. So under the agriculture education, it'd be new courses in the area called Precision Agriculture Technologies 1 and 2. It's important for the scope and sequence of a program, both for students' career development, but also for state requirements related to current technical education and sort of scholarship eligibility, that they're able to complete what's referred to as a coordinated plan of study, which means they need to take 2 credits in a single program offering. So it's important that we offer at least 2 credits in agriculture, at least 2 credits in automotives or aviation. So you'll see a lot of times in CT the scope and sequence of a 1 and a 2. In aerospace, aviation 1 and 2, we currently offer those courses at Red River. We're going to move those courses over to the CIA, but at the same time, we're going to propose offering a standalone course called Unmanned Aircraft Systems. Under building trades, proposing to offer a new course called Construction Essentials that would elevate kind of the focus on HVAC, plumbing, electrical, the trades areas, in addition then to the carpentry skills that perhaps students are receiving at more of the intro level. This would be the middle course prior to the students then building and constructing the residential house. Under Culinary Arts 1 and 2. I should also mention, you see this Career Connection that is listed. Career Connection was approved last year by this process. That is our work-based learning opportunities that exist then within each of these program areas. And so if you have a student that has completed a coordinated plan of study, a scope and sequence of courses, then how do we get those students connected into our pipeline, into our workforce at a younger age, and still have the opportunity to obtain high school credit? We have a number of kids that are taking part in that experience already with our existing programs. So anyway, we call that Career Connection. Maybe in previous terms it would have been called like cooperative work experience, if you've heard that term. Under health sciences, again, proposing the offering of new courses, sports medicine, intro to medical services. Under information technology, really it's just changing the credit options of those courses. We used to offer computer hardware and operating systems 1 for a semester, then computer hardware and operating systems 2 for a semester. The idea would be is we're just combining those courses together as a 1 credit option. The new course in the information technology would be an AP computer science class, and working with UND on that alignment of that for those that want to pursue a computer science degree. Also, the last course then, to kind of round out our scope and sequence of credits for 2 credits in the robotics advanced manufacturing would be an advanced manufacturing course. The ones in blue are those that we were recommending for deletion, either because of enrollment purposes, perhaps a duplicate, but it's in the information technology space, the removal of networking essentials, the technology help desk internship, which is duplicate with our work-based learning program now, and then as I mentioned, those computer hardware operating systems second semester courses, which are now blended into a 1 credit offering. The last pages in your memo are just the courses that would be an overview of what would stay at the existing high schools for offering for our students. Again, a lot of those 9th grade based courses that we already talked about, or programs that perhaps are not represented at the Career Impact Academy, business education, marketing education, programs in the CT space that perhaps don't need the specialized lab and the specialized equipment like in automotives. They need a classroom and they need desks and chairs, and that's what we currently have at those schools. So with that, I would be happy to stand for any questions of the board and discuss any of these.
Questions for Mr. Ripley? Yep, Mr. Clevin.
So the Programming Essentials 2 is recommended for deletion. Is there still a Programming Essentials 1?
Correct, yeah. So Mr. Clevin, further up on that grid, there's a Programming Essentials class, I think it's the 4th line down there. And so currently we offer a Programming Essentials 1 and a Programming Essentials 2. We're going to offer that Programming Essentials as a full credit course, but then to complete that scope and sequence, offering that AP Computer Science class.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Dr. Lund?
Eric, as you went through this design process and came up with all this, how did we involve our regional partners in the area?
It's a great question. Early on there in the process, we certainly wanted to bring in some industry partners from more of a financial capital campaign, but we also had a number of user group meetings with all these program areas, essentially asking, what are we missing in the scope and sequence of courses? I actually just recently met with the manufacturing sector for the EDC, talking about an advanced manufacturing class. It's important through our program advisory committees, which are really a hallmark of any of our CT program areas. Those program advisory committees are made up of industry partners, post-secondary representatives, could be former students, but really to provide their lens. I know a lot of that work was put into the health sciences area specifically, relying on our industry partners. And at the same time, these are all elective courses. So we wanted to look at trend enrollment. What is an interest to our students? What are they willing to sign up for? Also when we offer these courses as well. So it's a lot of voices at the table to provide their input and information. And to be honest, some of the programs that were proposed we're not offering because we don't know if there'll be either the space, the students, or the staff to be able to deliver them.
Just a quick follow-up question. How about, did you gather, that's the word, gather input from regional school districts or students, that would be involved in the CTE program here in this area, since it's a regional CTE program?
Correct. Yeah, if you go all the way back to our application process, we actually surveyed over 3,500 students for those same exact questions related to a lot of courses, some that aren't represented on this list. And we asked students really two questions. What is their level of interest in taking the course? And then what is their level of willingness to engage in the logistics to take participation in that said course? And so realizing that no matter where they're coming from, they're going to have to leave their home school and come to Career Impact Academy. Incidentally, Larimore recently did a proposal, or did a student interest of their students, and of their 80 students, 50 of the high school level, 50 of them said that they'd be interested in taking a course of what we're proposing. And so student interest is quite high.
If I may, just to follow
Yes,
up
sir.
to that, I know that registration for the upcoming school year is just around the corner.
It is.
I'd be curious, and I wonder if others would as well, just a follow-up report sometime in the spring semester about what that enrollment looks like, for no other reason than curiosity, since it's brand new. So
Yeah,
I know I should have saved that for board requests for future consideration, but since you're here and I'm here and we're here, if you just want to file that in your in the back.
I would be happy to, President Berger, and as you know, I've been fortunate to be in front of this board a number of times related to this project because it's been 3 years in the making, but always appreciate the opportunity to come and present and discuss this project or anything else related to the CT department.
Any other questions for Mr. Ripley? Mrs. Flynn?
This is sort of a chicken or the egg question.
Sure.
So I'm seeing 11 new course offerings on here. So when do we hire for these positions?
Sure.
Is my first question. Like, are we waiting on numbers first and then we hire? Do we start advertising? How does that work?
I think it's a little bit of both. We can certainly look at our trend enrollment for the previous years for some of our existing programs, right? Where we can take a look at that and say we can anticipate what our staffing levels are going to be based off some of our previous years. Now, bringing in more regional schools, we'd certainly think that student interest will increase. I do think that the timeline would set up well where we start registering, to Mr. Berger's point, right away in January for next school year. So you get your preliminary numbers generally by March. So January, February, March, we start getting some basic raw numbers. I work with Catherine and the high school principals for looking at sections, and I really think that helps define exactly how much staff are we talking about. Because in some cases it might be a part-time staff member or a 60% staff member based off of the enrollment. And so that March time frame is what sticks in my mind, and I think that that's pretty consistent with the rest of the district.
My other question alongside that would be, where in the world do we find an agriculture teacher?
Sure.
So I'm assuming that some of these people have the skills necessary to educate on a topic, but are they certified educators? Is that where we have a little bit of flexibility to get them some certifications?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. So, and I'll use another established program. Our automotives instructor, for example, worked for 20 years in industry prior to being an educator. And so, not pretty common within the career and technical education space is you're hiring individuals that might have the industry experience, but not the teaching background. And there's a program that's through the state department called Transition Teaching, which takes that industry experience and partners that with some education and training just in time related to classroom management, lesson development, assessment strategies. And so the combination of those things are really what's designed to help support that individual in the classroom. Part of that transition program also is the assignment of 2 mentors of veteran instructors, both from the content side and from just a building mentor, somebody that can just demonstrate what good teaching looks like. We've been really successful at using that program and that entrance plan related to really any CT program that doesn't have a basic education opportunity for instructors. So automotives, health sciences, aviation, somebody coming from industry versus maybe a more traditional teaching route. And so that would be my thought in terms of how we're going to identify candidates for some of these programs. And as I say that, agriculture education does have a teacher prep program out of NDSU.
Okay. And then who pays for the transition programs?
We've paid for that out of our Perkins allotment, so our federal Perkins dollars.
Okay. And then the veteran teacher mentors, do they get a stipend or incentive?
They do.
As well?
Yep, same. We pay for the content mentor, which is usually a CT staff member out of Perkins, and then the building mentor is paid for by the State Department of CTE.
Okay. Thank you. And also be wondering if and when you come back in the spring, if there's a plan put in place yet on how there may be additional revenues coming in for some of the adult ed stuff.
Yes.
So basically opening the space and what potentially that looks like in terms of offsetting some costs.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're not wrong. I talked about the primary purpose of this space during the school days for students, but we've said many times before we don't want the lights to go dark. We think that there's an opportunity to do adult education training. I think there's an opportunity to bring back community courses for the students or for our community and utilize this building as the facility to do that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes.
So a lot of the technical skills I see listed here on the breakdown of what you guys are doing there apply directly to the military and the Air Force Base. Has there been any collaboration to get folks that are enacting those technical skills now over at the base to enrich the program at all?
I think that's a great suggestion. Certainly we've worked probably the closest with Grand Sky, which I know isn't directly connected to the base, but certainly is it's present there, right? There's definitely a great relationship related to more of the UAS and the engineering sector side of things. And again, I think those industry partnerships, the program advisory committees are really where we can leverage that expertise. As you bring up also, and maybe to Ms. Flynn's question, one of the other pathways for bringing individuals into the classroom is a program called Troops to Teachers, which is also another potential pot of really qualified individuals that have that expertise and technical skills that can help bring them into the classroom as well. So I think there's some great opportunities there, both accounts.
Other questions? Yes, Ms. Flynn.
This question's for Catherine. I'm curious if you could remind the board on how the committee selects the courses that are up for curriculum review. Is it a sort of call out to the teachers? Like, do you have an idea in mind or where are you struggling at? And then the breakdown of how maybe things are shuffled. So, we have room in orchestra to cover some staffing. So how does the committee work with kind of that department and such?
Thank you for asking precisely what you say. So Linda Steinhaus, my secretary, our secretary, helps push out a memo to all of the building teachers, and they basically, through their PLC time, identify potential gaps in their programming, and then they come forward, they get approval from their building administrator, and then they put forth the proposal, and they come and speak to the committee, and we interview them and ask questions against kind of the rubric. It's listed in bullet form here, but it's kind of a rubric that we use. Part of the questioning is, and part of the form application is, what resources do you need? Is it staffing neutral? Would you be looking to add staff down the road? How curriculum works, all that sort of thing. So it's vetted through that process.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment on the kind of Spanish class. I think just hearing Ivona's presentation today, I think it's very forward thinking to sort of the population that we serve, but also just in terms of the U.S. nation as well, and kind of being a second language. Because we have members from the military base here, I sometimes work with families who will talk about that their children, all they've known is growing up overseas, and that they've essentially learned a dual language. And so I think one of the requests I've had multiple times is, does Grand Forks Public Schools offer sort of a continuous, my child knows Dutch, and so we need to continue to practice that. And so I think this could be a stepping stone for potentially other partnerships like that as well.
Other questions related to this agenda item? Mr. Clevin.
This is maybe naive, certainly ignorant. These are all CTE courses, correct? And what about other, like, primary core academic curricula? Does that get subject to review? What's the basic process there?
No, thanks for asking the question. So the original courses that I presented are all considered core courses. When Eric stepped to the microphone, those were specifically for career technical education.
Others? Okay, thank you both very much.
And just to remind you, this was just what we did, discussion tonight, and then this will come forth for approval at the ensuing board meeting.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder.
Thanks.
5E.
Next, we're going to cover the monthly enrollment report. Matt Bakke.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's my opportunity to present to you the Twining Elementary and Middle School Enrollment Report, or monthly report. As you'll see noted in the memo, we see a total for our elementary students of 214, which is actually a decrease of 2 students from September of 2024. And then at the middle school level, we have a total number of 72 students, which is a decrease of 1 student from September 2024. Really, the big number we're looking at, though, is in comparison to last school year. And when looking at that, we're overall up 4 students across the board relative to Twining Elementary and Middle School, when combined with a combined enrollment of 286. I've also broken it down there for so you can see what the high school numbers look like, both at Central High School and Red River High School, as well as community. So, any questions for me? Thank you.
All right, moving on to 6A. This is the consent agenda for the Grand Forks School Board. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. It's been moved by Dr. Lund. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Flynn. We'll take a roll call vote.
Lund? Yes. Palmasino? Yes. Flynn? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Manley? Yes. Larson is absent. Hodak?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion carries. 6B, General Fund Financial Statement. Brandon Bombach.
Yes, thank you, President Berger, members of the board. You'll see in the cover memo, the quick summary for the first 4 months of this fiscal year 25 has our total general fund revenues at $32,508,905 and our expenditures at $27,589,969, putting the revenues over expenditures a little more than $4.9 million. It's laid out into 2 separate reports, the first being the budget versus actual and just how this year is tracking along. The first page summarizes that. In revenues, you can see that we're about 25% of what is budgeted at this point in the year, and the expenditure is about 21.3% of what is budgeted for the year. Plenty of information here, happy to answer any questions, but just moving towards the second report, that is that comparison report, that kind of helps us get a better perspective as things do come in at different points of the year. And so this is a look from this year, where we're at the first 4 months as compared to last year at the same point in time of the first 4 months. And there you can see a summary page showing that we're up revenues 4.9%. We're actually down expenditures of 13%. There's a lot of different things that can go on in here, a lot of timing issues. Last year would have been, the last year we're using ESSER dollars, so certainly we were expending at a higher rate to get those out. I don't know if that explains all of it, but there's a lot of movement here, so as the year goes on, there'll be a lot more to tell. I do leave some notes. I made 9 of those in this report here that are correlated along the left margin. But I would just kind of scroll down to the graphical depictions here in summary that you can see the 3 colored bars, or some can see those, from left to right being the oldest to the most recent. And those green bars are indicative of this fiscal year. So for October, you can see that we're at a higher level of revenues than prior years. For expenditures on the next page, we're at a lower level than prior years. And then put those together in a blender, you can see that the balance is up quite a bit here. But that, again, is a timing, it can be a timing issue, so we'll continue to watch that, monitor it, and be bringing it back to the board each and every month. But the administrative recommendation would be to approve the general fund financial statement for the period of July 1, 24 through October 31st, 24.
Any questions? I would seek a motion to approve the general fund financial statement for the period of July 1, 2024 through October 31, 2024. It's moved by Mr. Clevin. Is there a second? A second by Mr. Manley. Any further discussion? Take a roll call vote.
Hodak? Yes. Clevin?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Palmasino? Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion carries. Item 6C, Superintendent Guardrails regarding board-adopted academic goals. Dr. Brenner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to read off the memo that was previously distributed to you through the board packet. As indicated at a previous school board meeting, and as part of the Be Legendary training that school board members underwent in June 2023, although not all board members at the table went through that training, one of the tenets of the training was creating superintendent guardrails as it relates to the adopted school board and district leadership academic goals. In other words, the accountability checkpoint relative to academic goals identified at the school level that are aligned with the school board and district leadership goals is that the superintendent must have a built-in system for self-monitoring, along with school board members and building level principals understanding the overall responsibility level of the superintendent related to the school board approved goals. That's one of the longer sentences that I've written. Sorry, I didn't break that up into 3 paragraphs. Given the aforementioned, the following document lays out 3 superintendent guardrails generated through several meetings with Be Legendary trainers Dr. Marcia McMahon and Lori Elliott, along with a goals refresher below the guardrails that have been shared with all district administrators through a recent meeting, which was a week ago from today at 7:45 a.m. That was additionally recorded for those administrators unable to attend the meeting and follow-up viewing. Additionally, not in this memo would be a communication that I would send out to teachers as well. So should the board approve these guardrails, teachers at the classroom level would understand the accountability checkpoint for the superintendent as well. So I'm going to flip over to the backside before I read through the administrative recommendation. So the guardrails are, number 1, superintendent will not allow curricular resources other than those aligned with the North Dakota state standards and adopted by the school board to be used as the foundation for delivering instruction. That would also align with our HRS Level 3 guaranteed and viable curriculum, so that it doesn't matter what school you attend in the school district, access to those standards being taught through those resources would be equitable throughout. So an example of that would be our 6 through 8 Wit and Wisdom. Teachers ought not to have a choice whether they use the materials or not. They should be using those materials. K-5, really great reading, is something that is board approved as well. So those are just a couple of examples. Guardrail number 2, superintendent will not allow established district-wide standards for classroom evaluations to go unmet. So in other words, our teachers with 0 to 3 years of experience, they should be receiving 2 informal observations by principals and 2 formal. and those can be checked and monitored in our eye observation platform through our Marzano teacher evaluation and coaching process. Our Category 2 teachers would be years 4 and up. They should have 2 informal observations and 1 formal, so one fewer formal than the Category 1 teachers. So just to give you a little more insight into what that actually means. And we can run daily reports through Deb Koopman and Amy Barch's department to see how principals are doing on that checklist. And number 3, because the board has invested in our 14 or 15 early dismissals each year, superintendent will not allow professional learning communities to function without the continuous analysis of student achievement data, as well as an ongoing analysis of the curricular resources and their alignment with North Dakota state standards. So you've seen and heard a bit of that already with presentations from either Wilder, Lewis and Clark. Kelly Elementary will be coming up. You've heard the RTI model at Red River High School and some of the results that that's yielding already. And then the other piece that I would also add is Chief Academic Officer Amy Barch, myself, Catherine Glatch, Matt Bakke. Just about every other week we have 2-hour blocks where we do learning walks in classrooms, and we spend time in classrooms, and that's a good checkpoint for us to see if, in fact, curricular resources adopted and purchased by the school district and the school board are being used. So those would be the 3 guardrails. Again, this is a higher level of accountability for the superintendent, but it also really aligns the work that's being done at the building level, that's being fed to the district level, and it supports the work that Catherine, Matt, myself, and Amy Barcher are doing as instructional leaders in the school district. So with that, you can see the school board adopted goals are below in English language arts, mathematics. I did drop the Native American graduation goal in there, even though we haven't had that approved and updated yet by the board. That'll be forthcoming, but I just wanted to make sure that that was still in front of the board. So it's the administrative recommendation that the school board approve the 3 superintendent guardrails, and I'd certainly be happy to respond to any insight or questions that anybody might have.
Questions for Dr. Brenner? I just have one. Since we haven't had these before us before, is there an ongoing system? Will they be ever updated, re-implemented, just as a matter of course? Just curious.
I would say annually we would look at these. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Brenner? Otherwise, I would seek a motion for the school board to approve the 3 superintendent guardrails stated in the memorandum. Moved by Mr. Palmasino. Is there a second? Second. A second by Mr. Anderson. Any further discussion? Yes, Ms. Flynn.
I wonder if, since this is new, just like you were saying, I wonder if this is something that the Superintendent Evaluation Committee looks at adding into, if we're stating guardrails or some sort of job duty, then maybe this is also something that's a double checkpoint as well.
Do you want to comment about that? Is it?
I would agree. Thank you.
Other comments, discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Flynn? Yes. Hodak? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Palmasino? Larson?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion carries. Item 7A, announcements from either board, from Dr. Brenner, from others. Seven B, any board requests for future consideration? Yes, Mr. Clevin.
Yeah, we all got an email about gymnastics, and not second guessing that, but I think it would be good at some point, 2 or 3 months time frame, to kind of revisit how those decisions get made, because it will come up again.
Thank you for that. Other board requests for future consideration? Seven C, school board norms. Mr. Clevin, how do we do?
good. I hope we all go home and judge ourselves accordingly, but it was a good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.